Hi everyone, welcome to the sixth video in this series. In this video, we'll be looking at how we can insert and update data in tables. So there are four main topics that we'll cover in this video. The first is how to insert new data into tables. The second is how you can update data that's already been inserted into the table. The fourth is how you can delete certain rows within the table. The third is how you can delete 3, 2, 1. Hi everyone, welcome to the sixth video in this series, inserting and updating data in tables. In this video, we'll be covering four main topics. The first is how you can insert new data into tables, how you can insert new rows. The second is how you can update rows that have already been inserted into the table, or rows that already exist within the table. The third is how you can delete certain rows within the table. And the fourth and last topic is how you can drop entire tables when you don't need them anymore. So just as a quick recap, in the last video, we looked at how we can create tables using the create statement, and we created the books table. So this was the code, the SQL code that we used to create the books table. We had 6 columns: the book ID, the book name, the author name, the date of purchase, the shelf location, and a rating. So I can just quickly go to open MySQL, connect to the database. Okay. And if we go to tables, you can see that the books table exists, and here you can see all the details, the column names, the type of data that's to be stored in every column. So last time we created the table, but we didn't insert any data into it. So if I say select star from books, you can see that we get the column names listed here, but there's no corresponding rows, because we didn't insert any data into the table. And that's what we're going to do now. So when you want to insert a single row into a table, this is the basic syntax. You say insert into, then the name of the table, then you list out all of the columns in the table, then values, and then value 1, value 2, the values that you want to insert. So let's look at an example. So if I actually go back, so there's this example table here that contains the data that we need to insert. So there's 3 books that we need to add to the books table, and all of that data is here. So let's use SQL to insert that data into our books table. So I have to say insert into, and then the name of the table, which in our case is books. Then I have to list out all of the columns in that table. So I say book ID, book name, author name, date purchase, shelf location, and rating. Okay, so we've listed out all of the columns that are in the books table. Then I say values, and we list out all of the values that we want to insert. So the book ID is S1. The book name is Statistics 4th edition. So Statistics 4th edition. The author name is David Friedman. Date of purchase is 2016 06/05. The shelf location is WX4, so WX4. And last of all, the rating, which is 3.8. So you can see that all of these are in single quotes. So all of these are varchars or chars, except for this, which is a date data type. This is a float, so it doesn't go into single quotes. Chars and varchars go into single quotes, and so do dates. But numbers, integers, decimals, like floats, those don't go into single quotes. You just enter them as is. Okay, so I will say, so that is the end of our SQL statement. So if I run that, it should insert that single row into our data, into our table, sorry. So I can say select star from books, and that row that we just entered should be there. And yep, sure enough, it is in the table. So that means our first insert statement worked well. Okay, let's try inserting the second row, right? So we have the data for the second row here. Now, last time when I listed out the names of the columns, I listed the columns in the exact same order as they appear in the table, but you don't necessarily have to do that. So I can start off with author name, then I can say shelf location, then I can say book ID, book name. Did I leave anything out? Rating. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there's something I left out. Book ID, book name, author name, date purchase. Yes. Okay. So this, I've just entered it into some random, I've listed out the columns in a random order. It's not recommended, but we'll just look at how it works. So I can say values. Now, when I list out the values that I want to enter, the values should be in the same order as the columns listed out here. So first I need the author name, which is Thomas Corman. So Thomas Corman. Then comes the shelf location, which is CE3. Then comes the book ID, which is I2. Then comes the book name, which is Introduction to Algorithms. So Introduction to Algorithms. And then the rating, which was 3.5. And then the date of purchase, which was 2011-1209. So 2011-1209. Okay, so I've completely messed up the order of the columns. It's different from what is actually in the table. But when I was listing out the values, I made sure that I listed them out in the same order and in which I listed out the columns. So I'll run that. Okay, so it worked. So the order of the columns and the order of the values doesn't have to be the same as the table, as the order of the columns in the table, but they have to be the same as each other within the SQL statement. So I have to follow, when I'm listing out the values here, I have to follow the order of the columns that I've given here. Okay, and again, to check that our data was properly entered, I can say select star from books, hit run, and yeah, our data was properly entered, and every value actually went to its proper column as well, even though we did it in a different order. Okay, so the last table, the last row that we want to enter is this one. So I'll say insert into books. And it'll get very annoying having to list out all of the column names over and over again. So to make things easy, what you can do is just say insert into books and then values and then list out all of the values. But you just have to make sure that the order of the values that you list out has to be in this order, the order in which the columns are shown in the table. So when inserting the last row, I have to follow this order. So first I have to give the book ID, then the book name, which is molecular biology of the cell. So molecular biology of the cell. Then I have to give the author name, which was Bruce Alberts. Then I have to give the date of purchase, which comes after author name, and that was 2018-02-17. 2018-02-17. Then I have to give the shelf location, which was BB5. So BB5. And last of all, the rating, which was given as 4.2. So 4.2. Now this should also work. We've not listed out the column names, but we have made sure that the order of the values is the same as the order of the columns within the table. So I will run that, and it looks like it was executed properly. So again, if I want to see it, I can just say select star from books and hit run, and yep, all our data has been correctly and properly entered into the table. So that is how you can insert data within the table. It's very simple. Yeah, that's how you can insert data. Okay, but now we'll move on to updating data. So we already have existing data. It's sitting in the table. We just inserted it ourselves. But what if we need to update it? What if we need to change it for whatever reason? So the basic syntax for updating a row that already exists in the table is this. You say update, the name of the table, then you say set, and then you list out your column and value pairs. So you're basically saying column 1 equals value 1, column 2 equals value 2, so on. And value 1, and then you add the where condition. So this where condition is really important. When you're updating information within your table, you want to make sure that you update only certain rows, only the rows that need to be updated. And this where condition, takes care of that. So it filters out only the rows that you want to update and then changes the values for those. So if you don't specify which rows you want to update, if you don't have a where condition, then SQL will update every single row that exists in the table. And that is not what you want. And it can have disastrous consequences. So just be very careful about including this where condition, and be careful about the condition itself. You have to make sure that you're updating, only these rows. So you have to, when the conditions get very complicated, you have to be careful about how you frame that condition as well. Anyway, we will be covering very simple examples, so don't worry about that. So let's look at an example. Suppose you purchased the second edition of Introduction to Algorithms on the 25th of October, 2021. And so you've got a new edition of a textbook and you don't want to stock the old edition anymore because it is, it's out of date. So let's look at how we can do that. So looking at the syntax, they say update, then the name of the table, which is books, and then I say set. So I need to change the name of the book. So I have to say book name equals Introduction to Algorithms, second edition. So we're changing the name of the book and we're changing it from Introduction to Algorithms to Introduction to Algorithms, second edition. And we also have to change the date of purchase, right? Because we purchased the second edition on this date. So book name is this, then comma, date purchase is 2021, then 25. We're updating those two columns. Now our where condition, arguably the most important part of this SQL statement. So I say where the row that we want to update is the second row. The book ID is I2. So the book ID, the row that I want to update is the one that has a book ID of I2. So I hit run. Oh, okay. So sometimes what can happen is that MySQL won't let you update tables. It's just a security, like a safety measure to make sure that you don't accidentally update something that you don't mean to. So to get around this problem, just say set and then SQL update safety, if I'm not wrong, set that to 0 and then a semicolon. It should work. Okay, so sorry about the confusion. The actual command is set SQL safe updates equals 0. Okay, now it works. So if you're not able to update, just type in this command, set SQL safe updates equals 0 before your update statement, and then it should work just fine. Okay, so we've updated that data. So now let's check that it's actually been properly updated within the table. So I'll say select star from books. Yep, and it looks like it's been updated properly. The name has changed to Introduction to Algorithms, second edition, and our date of purchase is the 25th of October. So that is how you update data within the table. So we finished this. We've updated the name of Introduction to Algorithms. We've updated the date it was purchased on. So now let's look at how we can delete data. You want to get rid of rows that you don't need anymore. So the basic syntax to delete a single row is this. You say delete from table name where condition. So again, as with updating data, this where condition is again very important, because if you don't specify the rows that you want to update, then SQL will delete every single row. And of course, that's usually not what you want to do. So the where condition is very important. So we'll look at an example. Suppose you're removing the molecular biology textbook because it is outdated. So let me switch to MySQL. So use university, and I will say delete, and then from, and then the name of the table, which is books, and then where. And we want to delete the molecular biology textbook from our books table because it's outdated and we don't want to stock it. So the book ID is M3. That's the row that we want to delete. So I will say book ID equals M3. Okay, so it's deleted that row. So let's check again by doing select star from books. Oops. Okay, and you can see that the third row has disappeared. So that is how you delete rows within the table. Again, when you're updating or deleting rows, just be very careful to remember to add the where condition, because you want to update or delete only certain rows most of the time. So the last thing that we're going to be looking at is dropping a table. This is when you drop an entire table. Again, this is something that you have to do with a lot of discretion, because usually when you don't want to drop entire tables. So when you're dropping a table, just be very, very careful. Be certain that you want to 100% drop it. So if you want to drop the table, let me just say the basic syntax to drop a table is this. You say drop table and then the name of the table. That's it. So I can say drop table. Actually, yeah, let's drop the table books. Okay, and it's drop the table books. So now if I actually try and say select star from books, it'll give us an error because table university.books doesn't exist. So the books table within the university database doesn't exist. So it gives us an error because we've deleted that table. So suppose I don't want to get rid of the table, but I just want to get rid of all the rows. So I want to keep the columns and I want to keep the data types associated with each column, but I want to get rid of all of the rows. Then you can do truncate table and then the name of the table. So let's look at an example. So I say truncate table, and let's say we want to truncate subjects. We want to, suppose the university is revising all of its subjects and it's getting rid of all the old ones and adding new ones. So the way you would do that operation within a database is this. So you don't want to get rid of the entire subjects table, you want to get rid of just the rows. So I can say truncate table subjects. Why is it not running? Okay, yeah, it ran. So truncate table subjects. So if I select star from subjects, it should be an empty table. So you can see that the columns are still there, but there's absolutely no rows because we got rid of all of the rows. Okay, so this video covered the basic operations involving inserting data into a table, updating data that exists within a table, deleting rows from a table, and lastly, how to get rid of all of the data within a table. We did that using truncate, and then how to get rid of the entire table, which you can do that, and you can do that using drop. So that is it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.